What is up, everybody? We're back here, another One Piece vlog, and this is a big one for the Summit War Saga review. So I have finally done it. I finally made it to the time skip in One Piece. It's been a very long time coming. I have been waiting to get to this moment to see when Luffy gets the scar and gets buff and everyone getting their redesigns. And so today I want to dive into everything leading up to the time skip. In my last video, I talked about Sabaody Archipelago and basically how I think that moment signals a key shift for One Piece. I talked about how separating the crew is going to allow the storytelling to breathe in the second half of the series, and that it was kind of a needed thing to happen, I think, for the development of One Piece and for a story that's going on this long. And on its own, it's just a great moment when Kuma sends everybody away. It's horrifying and just absolutely incredible. And it leads right into Luffy going to meet Boa, of course. Boa is awesome. I don't know how anyone could not like Boa, but that was really cool to see Luffy kind of be separated for the crew for the first real time, and you start to see him hit his first low. And kind of before I talk about the next two things, the next couple arcs in it, I want to take a look back at Sabaody Archipelago and talk about one of the characters that was introduced, which is Law. I've been waiting to meet Law for years. I've heard about him all the time. Everyone seems to love him. I go on Twitter and literally it's like Law, Law, Law. Like everyone's always talking about Law, and it was really cool to see his introduction. I'm sure pretty quickly after the time skip I'm gonna learn a lot more about him, or I hope so. I really like his design. I think his power is unique. I don't really know a lot what's going on there yet, but I'm really excited that I've got to meet Law finally, so I had to get that out of the way because everyone always talks about how much I'm gonna love him and everything, and so far it's a great first impression. And then kind of moving on, this whole saga, spoiler alert, is my favorite saga so far in One Piece. It's kind of everything feels like it's has been building to this moment for Luffy as a character, and seeing him kind of hit a low and then hit a deeper low with the death of his brother Ace. And that was amazing, and I'll get to that in a minute. But it really starts after Sabaody with Impel Down. And Impel Down is one of my favorite arcs so far in the series. It has this really different feeling from everything that I've read up until this point, specifically with the ticking clock kind of feeling, like a bomb's about to go off and it's the death of Ace. And so it adds this sense of urgency that's typically missing in so much of One Piece, right? If there is one critique I have of the series so far, it is that if I was to rate the pace out of 10, it'd be like a 4 out of 10. And so the pacing can move pretty slowly even in the manga, but all of a sudden they dial it up and the pace feels like it's double, like an 8 out of 10, specifically during Impel Down, and things are just really moving and it feels like there's so much importance with what's going on. And then Oda brings back Buggy and Crocodile, and Bon Clay and people like that, that really gives you the sense of that the world that we've seen so far, it's okay, things that Luffy did in the past actually have repercussions, consequences, and because of that, all of these people are in jail. It's not like he just kills them and then moves on. They're coming back into the story, and seeing different alliances shift with him and Buggy and him and Crocodile especially kind of being on the same team was really rewarding, from when they're just absolute opposites and villains to all of a sudden being allies in this battle and this race to go save Ace. And of course how Impel Down ends, they're not able to save Ace, and it's kind of just this devastating moment where Luffy was so close to saving him but couldn't do it. And you also get to meet Jinbei, who is really cool. I really like Jinbei. I think his power is super interesting as a fishman, and seeing, because one of my favorite arcs is Arlong Park so far, and seeing a fishman along with Hachi, kind of interacting and being super powerful and friends with Luffy is pretty cool. And so Jinbei, I'm sure we're gonna get more of him in the story, as obviously he's said he's waiting for Luffy on Fishman Island. But that was really awesome, and just that arc gave me something that I've never been given before in One Piece, and that's like this immediate kind of threat. And like, I feel like I never think that death is a thing in One Piece, right? Like, characters don't die, but with like the potential of Ace to die, even though I knew he didn't get executed, but I did know the spoiler that he did pass away later in the series, later in that battle in the Marineford arc. I think Impel Down, though, is just kind of the perfect build up to that, and you have that sense of urgency because it feels like Ace could really die, which he does. And it was kind of just everything I hadn't really had in One Piece, and just like putting a bunch of characters we had seen before in a situation where they all have the same goal all of a sudden. And it's like, this is like the only place you could imagine, in a prison where Luffy's trying to break someone out, and every prisoner in there wants to break out. And it's like one of the only times you would think that like Crocodile and Luffy could ever be aligned in their philosophies, in their goals, which was really cool to see. And so I really loved Impel Down, one of my favorite arcs so far in all of One Piece. And I think my favorite, and kind of everything that I've wanted in an arc, everything that I kind of look for, especially in a big battle, happened in the Marineford arc. And I think this battle is just a great example in the Marineford arc as a whole of how to stage a big battle between two armies. Reminds me a lot of Lord of the Rings and a lot of Game of Thrones, specifically Battle of the Bastards, where you have these two sides where it's a deeply emotional fight for one of them, and the other one is trying to prove a point to the world. So what's really interesting is how they both kind of lose, because obviously the Whitebeard pirates lose because they lose Whitebeard and Ace, but also because of Whitebeard saying that the One Piece definitely exists, it's kind of like the Navy loses, because the Navy is trying to make this big statement. The world government is trying to say, hey, this guy on the Whitebeard pirates, he's going to get executed. So we don't need any new generation of pirates, because this is what's going to happen to you. And so even though that is what happens, even though Ace and Whitebeard lose the fight, they still win, and they get at the heart of what the Navy and the world government was trying to do. And they bring this message out saying, all of you should go and become pirates because the One Piece exists. And it's cool to kind of see and think about another generation where Luffy's not the newest generation anymore. And like that happened like a few arcs prior in Sabaody, where you meet all of these new people, and Law included in that. And all of a sudden now it's like, okay, a couple years, there's going to be a whole new generation of people, because you have like Whitebeard's generation, but then like the people who came up with Whitebeard was someone like Shanks and Buggy, who were pirates, younger pirates during that time. And then when Goldie Roger dies, you have Luffy coming up, and this new generation, and now with Whitebeard, a whole generation after that, which is just really exciting for the future of One Piece. And I really can't wait to see if there is potential people who are younger than Luffy that show back up in the story. Probably not for a long time, but that potential is there. And the fight also, so it plays out in those different ways, where you have Whitebeard playing the Fleet Admiral, and they're kind of going back and forth using like pawns on a chessboard. But then you go to the very individual level of someone like Luffy, who's just like a really capable soldier, who ends up fighting someone like Mihawk, which is a really cool fight, and I want more of Mihawk. Zoro is training with Mihawk, which is incredible. I never would have thought that. So I want to see more Mihawk in the future for sure. But also, going back to the fight, you have all of these interesting relationships where like Mihawk and Luffy are fighting, but then all of a sudden Boa will protect Luffy no matter what because she's in love with him. And then as the fight goes on, you have other players showing up like Blackbeard and Shanks, and Shanks shows up and Mihawk is like, well, I said I'd fight Whitebeard, I didn't say I would fight Shanks. And then Blackbeard comes, and he also makes a statement when he's able to take Whitebeard's power. So really anything you would want in a fight, right? Like I always think the best fights have either the emotional hint to them or they kind of tell their own stories. And so having a big war like this that goes on for so long has so many different characters that we've like been waiting to see in action for hundreds of chapters. Like Whitebeard was introduced so long ago, to finally see him fight was so cool. And so it has all of those aspects where I think it's the best example of a fight. But it also just has all of these cool players, like Aokiji is super cool in the fight, and it's really cool to see all of the admirals also fight and show that, okay, they're pretty strong players in the world of One Piece, and they're not gonna just fall over to the best pirates out there, aka Whitebeard. And so I really think that this arc kind of takes what we've been kind of waiting for in One Piece. And even without the Straw Hats, which I love the Straw Hat crew, even having them be separated, to have this arc and this saga be so compelling and so fascinating, I think it's the strongest case of Oda's storytelling up until this point, right? Like, as the story goes on, I feel like you can see Oda getting stronger with his storytelling, and some arcs hit harder than others, right? Like, I like some other arcs better than Thriller Bark, which came right before this, but you can kind of feel the strength of Oda growing, and it really pays off right here, where he doesn't have to rely on the interactions between each crew member that I'm always going to love, but putting Luffy into a completely new situation by himself, and still having it be one of the most exciting things I've read up until this point is mind-blowing. It's incredible. You know, I think this arc, I mean, it's one of my favorite arcs or sagas I've ever seen, to be honest, I've ever read. The only thing that I think is kind of comparable to it is the Chimera Ant arc from Hunter x Hunter, which, if that is basically the highest praise I could give any arc ever, because that's incredible, and go watch Hunter x Hunter. But One Piece is, this arc kind of hit me out of nowhere. I was not expecting it to be this engaging, and like when you look at the fight, it goes from like an emotional outburst with things that Luffy are doing with Whitebeard, but then it also is hilarious at times, specifically with Buggy, and it really leads into the exciting prospect, I think, for the post-time skip. It really wrapped up the beginning really well. And to first kind of talk about that, you have to talk about Luffy. Luffy has never been to this dark of a point in his life. And when you kind of look at some of my criticisms of something like Water 7, I was like, well, Luffy might be to blame here. Like, the reason Usopp and Robin have left the crew, like, how is no one called Luffy out, whether it's a crew member or someone like Rob Lucci? And I didn't really get that. But now all of a sudden Luffy has just this self-doubt that him and his crew get separated, and then he makes the choice to kind of say, I'm gonna leave my crew for a little while and go save my brother because I have to do that. I have to save Ace. And then when he fails to save Ace, I mean, I just can't even imagine the kind of trauma that he's never kind of been through before. Luffy's always been able to win. He's always come out on top, and then all of a sudden he doesn't. And it's heartbreaking. It's one of the most emotional moments in the series when he's kind of sitting there saying that he's so weak. To see a character who has been so much stronger than most of the people we meet say that he's so weak was heartbreaking. But I'm really excited to see what Luffy comes out on the other side of this. And the potential for the next half of the series is really cool. It seems like the whole point of the pre-time skip, at least looking at it right now, is that you want to establish Luffy, all the crew members, and slowly, as you're building up the world, introducing a lot of interesting kind of ideas, like with progress and Skypiea, and of course, like racism is started in the Fishman, that's next arc, in Arlong Park. I've got Fishman Island on my mind, I'm reading it soon, but you have all of this kind of build up from these little arcs, and they're building up the world. And all of a sudden you get established and you feel like you have a decent grasp on how the world works and where the crew's gonna go next. And then they split up the crew. Luffy goes off, he hits his lowest moment ever, and the world is going to be completely different because there's 3 warlord spots to fill and an emperor, one of the 4 emperors, which is probably going to be Blackbeard because let's be real, he's just overpowered at this point. And the moment that he throws on the cape or whatever, the sheet over Whitebeard, and then comes out and he has his power is just iconic and really cool. But also the Navy seems like they're going to be in a very different position with potentially Okaji being the new fleet admiral, although I don't know how that's going to work out. And the man's name is escaping me, the guy who kills Ace. I don't know why I can't remember his name. I'll call him Magma, the Magma Admiral, real quick. But also to kind of bring up a criticism that I've had earlier in One Piece, with Water 7, my one big criticism was Rob Lucci. It felt like Rob Lucci, obviously, he is the embodiment of, the world and like justice and how the Navy views justice, right? And he's that embodiment of it. And you get that very quickly. And he's kind of this ruthless killer who goes off with whatever the government views as justice. But I feel like that was a missed opportunity with how big of a villain he is in the Water 7 arc. And I feel like his role and everything he was trying to say was basically done infinitely more efficient and more compelling with the Magma Admiral, who I'm forgetting his name. I always mix up the name of the admirals outside of Aokiji. But when he kills Ace and he talks about how, the pirates are scum and things like that, he is just kind of what Rob Lucci feels like, but just on a way bigger scale. And what's really cool about his design is he's drawn more realistic than everybody else, especially in comparison to like Whitebeard. Like Whitebeard, even though he's ripped and huge, he does look like a hair cartoony, but all of a sudden you get this guy and he looks more like a actual person, which adds to him kind of just being a terrifying character. But I really feel like he accomplished everything Rob Lucci did in just like half the time. But kind of moving forward, I think pre-time skip, it's building up this world, and now all of this shit has happened. And post-time skip, it feels like, especially with Luffy going to be getting a lot more powerful, and same with the entire crew, that Luffy now has an opportunity to make big waves in the world. Like, could he become an emperor one day? Like, that's something you can think about now. And who's gonna fill the new roles of the 3 warlords? I'm sure one of them is going to be they all 3 could be some of the other, like 9 or 10 rookies outside of Luffy and Zoro. And also, like, I'm trying to think of other characters that we know, like maybe Buggy could fill that role. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure who the 3 are. It'd be really funny if it was Buggy, because he, like, has amassed this insane following, even though, like, half the prisoners that he took are just stronger than him. So I don't know what Bug is going to be doing, but I'm sure he's still going to be in the story. But yeah, I think this is basically as flawless of an arc as you can give. And if I can give a 10 out of 10, that's what we're going to do. A 10 out of 10 for this arc. I think it's peak storytelling. I think it's peak One Piece. I think it leads beautifully into the time skip. I can't wait for the crew to get back together. That moment's going to be awesome. I'm excited for the Fishman Island arc. And yeah, really, I don't have any real negatives on this arc. I'm probably missing like 100 things about what I loved about this arc. But I'm getting really into the story, so I need to kind of I want to keep reading ahead, so I need to get some of these reviews out. But yeah, I think if you want to hear me talk about more individual things about this saga, let me know in the comments below. And of course, a new One Piece vlog every single Thursday. And then I'm also doing the One Piece discussions on the side of that. So I had my brother on the first episode, so you can go check that out. And then the next episode will be with a great creator called SOS. He's awesome. And if you don't know him, you should definitely subscribe. And a couple days after this video, make sure to check check out that podcast episode. And if you want to talk to me about some One Piece on like a One Piece discussion, follow me at Art Essays, just a good place to interact with me. DM me and say, hey, I'd love to be on an episode, and we can always get that done. So thank you guys for watching. I'm very excited to keep reading and finally get to post time skip One Piece. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.